Greetings, this is Doc Ock coming to you live and direct tonight from Black Facts Headquarters Central with another installment of Doc Ock at noon and 9. Hoping everything was real fine for each and every one of you today like it was for me. As you soon will see, I am ready to be who I truly be. Let's go ahead and do this right now. Tonight, you know we like you to do a couple things for us. Number one, if you're watching on Facebook, give us a like. If you're watching on the tube, give us a thumbs up. And then, most importantly, if you don't mind, we would love for each and every one of thee to go ahead and spread the word far and wide through the land, all up and down, all over town, about what you see here on Black Facts, because it helps alleviate your frown. Now, let's move on to our proverb of the day. And we've been doing this all month. In case you're just now tuning in, we've been relating Mancala proverbs. So tonight, our proverb is, my dog jumped from the wharf over 7 walls, jumped over 7 forests before it saw the sea. And basically what that relates to is what some people call a sunka board. And sunka is the name of this game that we've been talking about for the past month, that's played not only all over Africa and the Caribbean and in the U.S., but also in many parts of Europe, all over Eurasia, as well as in the Philippines. Right, and they call it the sunka board. So when they're talking about jumping, all this jumping that's going on, that's moving the pieces around the board. So, as I said before, my dog jumped from the wharf over 7 walls, jumped again over 7 forests before it saw the sea. And that is another proverb that has been related to you by me, Sunka. All about the Sunka board. Now, the other night, I started to tell the story of Biddy Mason, and I was doing it off the top of my head, and I can pretty well remember a lot of the highlights of her story, but just for clarity's sake, I thought I would go ahead tonight and read from this book here, With Open Hands. And this book is actually written by, let's see, does it say here? Doesn't tell me right here. But I believe this book is written by one of her relatives, probably a great-granddaughter, etc., etc. And I'm trying to remember. Oh, here it says about the author, page 64. Let me just go back here and check my memory. About the author. Native Nebraskan as a teacher. Oh, okay, this is how it went. Jerry Chase Ferris is a native Nebraskan whose love of history comes from her prairie roots. For many years, however, she's lived in L.A., where she was an elementary school teacher for almost 30 years. As a teacher, she regretted the absence of information for children and adults about Biddy Mason's role in early Los Angeles. As an author, she has begun to fill the gap. So her and her husband, Tom, a teacher and historian, have 2 grown sons and blah, 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 blah. Okay, so not a relative, but almost like a relative. So close to Biddy Mason, but yet so far. And she really wanted to tell Biddy's story, and I know just how she feels. So this is really the only full-throated book that I was able to find online about Biddy Mason. Now, let me see. Okay, we start our slideshow here. If you're not already watching us on YouTube, go to YouTube and you'll be able to see the slideshow that I'm tuning up right now. I'm posting up this slideshow. Whoops, let me go black here for a second. Sometimes it goes into another thing and I don't understand why. It should always be tuned up just like this. All right, so now we're ready to go. Let's go. Let's go. Um, yeah, and I'm going to read the introduction to this one because it's really, 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 really short as I continue to try to fix this slideshow we got to play here that doesn't seem to want to play right for me. Let's see if I can fix it this time. Get it right. All right, now. Okay, I'll put it back. Oh, put it over here. And let's see if it, yeah, now it's working. Okay, we're ready to go. Biddy Mason, born a slave in Georgia in 1818, just one of millions of Southern slaves. Different from that of other slaves, she became one of the richest women in Southern California. Biddy Mason gave her riches with open hands to anyone in need, hence the title of the book. Biddy Mason gave her riches with open hands to anyone in need, whether they were black, white, or brown. The open hand is blessed, she said, for it gives in abundance even as it receives. Biddy could not write the story of her life, but others wrote about her and remembered her giving ways. This story is taken from the journals of those who traveled with her, from documents in L.A., and from her family history. Biddy Mason, born into a family that was of enslaved Africans in Hancock County, Georgia, on August 15, 1818. Her name was actually Bridget, but everybody called her Biddy. She didn't have a last name. Well, back in those days, all black folks had the same last name, and it starts with the N. Need I say more? Biddy never knew her mother or her father. She was still a very little girl when she was taken from her mother and given to the slave-owning family of John Smithson. Her mother wasn't asked to give her child any more than a cow is asked to give up its calf. Perhaps Biddy was sold for a sack of tobacco leaves, or traded for a debt that was due, or given away as a present to the Smithsons. Nobody knows. Only the shadow do. The Smithsons took Biddy with them to Mississippi and put her in with other slaves. The slaves gave the little girl a space on the dirt floor of a wood cabin. They cared for her and taught her everything she needed to know. Biddy learned how a slave must behave toward her master and toward the master's wife and the master's children and all them other white folks. She learned how to cook and clean, scrub floors and sweep out fireplaces, wash grimy clothes and dirty dishes. She learned to keep working even when it was so hot the dogs lay panting in the shade and heavy moss hung limply from the trees. You see, by the time Biddy was a teenager, she knew as much about treating fevers and sore throats and sick stomachs as any of the women who had taught her. She knew where to look in the woods for just the right herbs and plants to make her medicines, and she was happy to help make other people, black or white, feel better again. She knew how to make soap and how to burl clothes in a huge kettle over the fire. She knew how to bake yams and biscuits in a Dutch oven. She even knew how to help a mother having a baby. There were two things Biddy didn't know, however. She did not know how to read, and she didn't know how to write. She wasn't allowed to know, for it was against the law for anyone to teach a slave such dangerous skills. After all, a slave who could read might learn how to get free, and that just couldn't be. So Biddy learned how to do things with her hands. When Biddy was 18, she was given away again. Mr. Smithson's cousin Rebecca married Robert Smith in 1836, and the Smithsons needed to give a very generous gift. They chose to give them Biddy, who was hardy and was strong, along with 3 other slaves as their wedding present, and then just say so long to Rebecca and Robert Smith. Biddy took everything she owned an extra well-patched dress, a blanket, her collection of plants and herbs wrapped in a cloth. Perhaps she even took an old rag doll from childhood. Who knows? Robert Smith was kind enough, Biddy saw, but his new wife was a sickly thing. Biddy was soon spending most of her time caring for the frail Rebecca Smith and the Smith's house. A year later, when Mrs. Smith's first baby was born, Biddy was the midwife, the person who helps the mother give birth. By this time, the Smiths could not manage without Biddy. They treated her well for a slave and did not whip her. The Smiths had 10 slaves altogether, and one of their slaves, Hannah, soon became Biddy's best friend. When their work was done for the day, Hannah and Biddy talked. Sometimes they ate their cornbread and catfish late at night. While the fire turned to gray ashes and the moon rode across the sky, Biddy and Hannah said everything but bye. Biddy had another friend. He was an Indian. Biddy often went to the marshy woods to gather plants and herbs for Mrs. Smith's medicine. It may be that she first met the Indian man in those woods, but nobody knows for sure, so we just can't tell you no more. There were many Indians in Mississippi then, Choctaws, Cherokees, Chickasaws, and Creeks. There may have even been some with black feet. Biddy's friend was the chief, or son of the chief, of one of these tribes, and family legend says they married to survive. But Biddy was not free to choose a husband just like that. She was still Mr. Smith's slave. The Indian man soon disappeared from Biddy's life. When Biddy was 20, her first baby, Ellen, was born at that time. By the time Biddy was 30, she had 3 children altogether. Ellen at 10, Anne at 4, and Harriet, who was just a little baby. And we have to wonder, who did she name Harriet after? Maybe after all this time, she was thinking about being free, like another Harriet we know. Biddy was strong, she was healthy, and she did every job she was told. She might have a better idea about how to do it, but she knew better than to say so, because an uppity slave was whipped hard, or maybe even sold and sent far away. Biddy wasn't uppity. She considered herself well treated for a slave, and for a slave she was. Then the year Biddy turned 30, she left home again. But this time everyone else left home too. And we're going to leave off right there and return to this story for you tomorrow night. But right about now, we're about to take flight because we're upstairs now and we interrupted our injetta making. Yes, that's right. Doc Ock has finally learned how to rock that injetta, and we rocking it and we shocking it, and we going to eat it because we just can't beat it. Doc Ock's injetta. I'm telling you, it's been a 30-year trek trying to learn how to make this stuff, and I finally got it together. I think part of it was the heat. The other part was the mixing. And the other part is you just got to have enough ingredients to mess it up a couple times. Don't come in here with no pound and a half of Tev. That just ain't going to get it. So bringing it all to you for free. Although we will be doing our fund drive, we do it every month. When the first rolls around, that's when we start to asking for money. So don't you even start to frown. You can give your donation now, or you can wait till the first. Either way it goes, we hope to have people make some donations in a serious burst, because we got a serious thirst over here for knowledge, that is. In the meanwhile, we say peace out with justice, without a doubt, because peace without justice disgusts us. We'll be black tomorrow at noon. Look for us then. This is Doc Ock at noon and 9, signing off.